Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So, thank you for being here. Thank you for having me. I am with Right to Start. My name is Edgar Solis. I'm the advocate for New Mexico, and I'm actually here in two capacities. So, I'm here as a Right to Start advocate and then also an entrepreneur. And this is super relevant for me actually because I'm a very new entrepreneur. So, our efforts are still very grassroots and bootstrap, as everybody has been mentioning. So this is a perfect panel for me, actually. So what I'll do is go ahead and introduce everyone, and then if everyone wouldn't mind just talking about what you're doing in the ecosystem and the resources available for entrepreneurs, we'll have a couple of minutes for that, and then we'll get right into your questions. All righty. So we have Rose. Okay. I'm meeting everyone for the first time too, so I apologize. And then we have Lorenzo Reyes. Okay, and then we have Drew, and then we have Dana, and then we have, is it Marie? She's on Zoom with us. So please, if you want to start.
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dana Catron. I am Deputy Director of Arrowhead Center at New Mexico State University. In the traditional sense, we are the university's tech transfer and IP office, but we also serve as the entrepreneurial arm and the economic development arm of the university. So in that capacity, we have a lot of programming that spans the entire state that serves everybody from K through 12 students to university students to startups of all kinds. We are the New Mexico FAST program, so we offer free SBIR, STTR assistance throughout the state. We recently started a clean energy cluster along with Sandia and Lanel to support clean tech companies and technologies here in the state as well. We work very closely with a number of you to run a lot of our programs, our sprint accelerators, things like that. So we have our hands in a lot of different pots, and that's really part of the reason why we're a land grant institution. We get to work with the entire state, so it makes our job a lot of fun, and we get to work with, again, all of you. Thank you.
Drew Tulchin. I'm the president of New Mexico Angels for the last 2 years. I'm also the managing director of the New Mexico Vintage Fund, which is a small microfund. And then I'm also one of the founders of Upspring Associates, which is a consulting firm that's been a B Corp, New Mexico's first B Corp. It's been a B Corp for 15 years. If I know you and you're in the audience, I'm going to make you wave because you asked about resources, and a lot of the resources are here. First of all, I want to acknowledge Rainforest. If you're a Rainforest person, and a lot of you in the back, can you raise your hand and can we give them a round of applause for a really excellent job? Lisa is one of my bosses. She serves on our board, so thank you for that, Lisa. But it's always a quality event here, and this is a community resource. And as we get out of or learn to live with COVID, we know how to use this physically better and better. So that's an important resource. Where are my NMEDD crew? Can I see your hands? So they've got funded, they've got a bunch of great programs. They're an awesome partner. One of the things is sometimes it's government, we're here to help you. And you're like, I thank you. Or sometimes it's like, okay, it's 4:45 and they're not answering the phones. I never see that with these people. I see them, I get emails at night, I see weekend work, and I see dedication to New Mexico. If you have a problem, I think they're sincere in helping a for-profit and nonprofit business in our state solve it. So go talk to them, please. They've been very helpful to all of the startups that we work with. Let's see here, who else am I missing? New Mexico Finance Authority might not be here today, but they are an important and growing partner. They funded 3 companies that we've invested in this past year, and they're sincere in helping provide capital to places that you wouldn't think could get capital. So what it's about is it's an ecosystem. I really believe in the rainforest. I'm really glad we had our speaker here today. We're a rising tide. We want to lift all ships. We want more boats on the water, and we want bigger vessels, right? So let's all contribute our little piece of stone soup to put it in there, and let's make something yummy. And I'll mix some more metaphors for you later.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lorenzo Reyes. I'm Associate Vice President for Workforce and Economic Development at San Juan College. We're in northern New Mexico. We have, although our main focus is education, we know that workforce development and economic development are key components of our community in our region. So therefore, the college has a center. We call it the Enterprise Center. In the Enterprise Center, we have a number of members of economic development. We have a number of members of other organizations that provide support for entrepreneurs, not only for new entrepreneurs, but also for those new businesses that are still in the early stages of development. In addition to that, we also have a makerspace that, thanks to the contributions of local stakeholders and foundations, we were able to establish to help some of those entrepreneurs develop their prototypes, develop their ideas in processes. Prior to COVID, we were doing great in terms of helping our community. After COVID, we had to slow down our operations, but we're beginning to see again the increase in demand for our services. We see individuals from representing many different groups with many challenges, with many dreams, many aspirations. And I do appreciate the invitation to be here. Lisa, thank you for inviting me, because although I've been with the college 7 years, and prior to that, I was in El Paso also in economic development. This is the first time that I can see that a very extensive network of support for our businesses exists in the state. And this is going to be, I think this is something that for us, when we look at where we are in the direction that we're taking, this is really a time where we need to pause and identify what are the resources that we need to bring in to support our entrepreneurs. But more importantly, and it has been highlighted today, how can we all work together to support our entrepreneurs in our state? And how can we leverage each other's expertise and resources to help the state move forward? Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Reza, and I am the Executive Director of UNM-Taos H.I.V.E. Taos H.I.V.E is the hub of internet-based vocation and education. It's the very first co-work, business support, UNM certifications, all under one roof. And we opened in the amidst the pandemic on June of 2021. It's a private-public partnership, again, between UNM-Taos, Kit Carson Electric Cooperative, and Taos Community Foundation. And we're really excited to be here today. UNM-Taos H.I.V.E was selected in January of 2020 to be a network member of the Center on Rural Innovation. This is a network of 33 rural communities working together on the 5 direct drivers of economic diversification. The goal is really to get about 100 other rural communities into that. So it's been an incredible opportunity to network and to learn and to really grow our rural base. I'm really excited to be here. I always say that we have so much talent in New Mexico. New Mexico is a brand, Taos is a brand, we are a brand, and we have so much potential, but only working together and really leveraging our experience are we going to be able to really create that strong foundation and opportunity so our entrepreneurial communities can grow and thrive.
Hi, I'm Marie Longserre. I am the president and CEO of the Santa Fe Business Incubator based in Santa Fe, New Mexico. We have a 30,000 square foot facility there that houses startup companies and young growing companies. Beyond that, we also have outreach programs for people who want to vet a business idea. We have a program called One Runway for somebody who wants to just even decide if they want to start a business and could that work. In our facility, we have a digital fabrication lab, a fab lab. We have a shared biotech wet lab and a variety of other equipment and help. Our businesses range from just makers who make creative things like jewelry all the way up to advanced manufacturing, software and technology, media, software companies, service businesses in construction, consulting, cleaning, and a really growing wing of biotech and biomed companies that work on pharmaceuticals, drug delivery systems, and biotech devices. I always like to say that what we do is basically provide a professional place for a company to get started, a program of training, mentoring, and assistance for those companies, and people and networks that expand their ability to attract the capital and the help and the markets, excuse me, that they need. We focus on these companies at their most fragile time, which is the first few years. Most businesses that are going to fail in the first 1 to 5 years. So if you can get them then, and help them and be strong to grow. And I agree with what everybody said here, that the network and the working together is what's important. And I think it comes from will. And if people, like everyone on the panel and everyone involved in this work, has a will to work together, and I believe in New Mexico, I just see it in a beautiful way that we do. We all want to help our entrepreneurs grow. And we all have networks. Our incubator network stretches all across the country and around the globe. So I'm delighted to be here, and thank you.
Thank you, Marie. Okay, so Rose, we're going to go ahead and start with you with our first panel member to answer the question. How do you create an ecosystem that reinforces itself?
I think everybody touched on it today, but it's number one, relationships. You know, each and every day when you're out there working and interacting, who are you meeting? How are you leveraging those relationships? The second is collaboration. How are you collaborating with the different organizations that are in alignment with your mission and support? And the third is networking. And a lot of these, you know, from relationship to collaboration to networking, everybody who spoke today touched on these topics. You know, when you think of collaboration, the Hive, we opened in June of 2021. I am the only one in the Hive, right? But as I started building this whole ecosystem, I have a number of mentors we have one from Taos Pueblo, we have some throughout we had about 11. My goal is to get to 60, but it's through those relationships that we've been able to create the quality support. As I mentioned earlier, the collaboration that we've had with the Center on Rural Innovation and our private-public partnership support, how would the Hive wouldn't be possible without that collaborative relationship? I'm looking at Stacy here from the UNM Rainforest, who comes to visit me and work with our local entrepreneurs every quarter. You know, I see so many different individuals, Liz and Vanessa, who I got to see today. We worked on a grant together. We didn't win the grant. We didn't get the opportunity for the grant, but you know what I cherish more? I got to meet them. I got to learn about their organizations. I got to network with them. And have we done the work we need to yet? No. But are we going to get there? Yes. And so, you know, value every relationship you have right now and continue to strive to learn and meet other individuals. Like today, I got to meet Victor, right? And I'm like, Victor, why don't you know Matt? And Matt, he knows Matt from Center on Rural Innovation, but that's what it's all about, right? It's this ecosystem that keeps building upon each other. And when it's just a matter of really, we have to value, you know, Dana's going to talk about it today, but Dana and I have worked together for the last 4 years. Actually, I think for 5, when I was even with 10, Taos Entrepreneurial Network. It's a relationship I value. Arrowhead has been so helpful in the success of so many of our local entrepreneurs. And what we have to realize is we ourselves can't be everything to everyone, right? We have our strengths, we have our weaknesses. How do we leverage what Arrowhead can provide? How do we leverage what UNM Rainforest can provide? It's not about who we are, it's about what we do to support the entrepreneur in being successful. And so it's really key: relationships, collaboration, and networking. When I think about, you know, I saw Bison Star today, and I love Angelo and Jacqueline dearly. During the pandemic, I leveraged a past relationship. I used to be an executive for Walmart, and I called Doug McMillan and I said, Doug, Walmart needs to focus on local manufacturing. I wasn't thinking about, I didn't want to see companies close their doors. I didn't want to see employees lose their jobs. I wanted to figure out, how do I get more sales? How do I open the opportunities for these individuals within our community? And Doug McMillan was able to get 5 of our local manufacturers in front of Walmart to pitch their product. And not all of them, you know, Angela would say that wasn't my market. I didn't really want to do that. But you know what they gained? They gained experience. They gained exposure. But 2 of the 5 got offers to place their product. 1 decided not to do it, another one did. And those are the relationships that we built throughout our career. And we have to continue to leverage those relationships to really create and open the doors of opportunity for others.
So I have to say, in my experience, just to add to it before we move on to the next panel member, one of the revelations that I made as an entrepreneur was, I have a small salsa company. My mother and I founded, and then we've been working on it for about 2 years now. And it was very important for me to get the word out. It's called Alma Salsa. It's fresh and roasted and all the good things that you would want in it. But I thought networking was going to be a very important thing, and it is. I'm not saying that it's not. But a revelation that I made was everything changed for me when I started focusing on building a relationship rather than networking and wanting an expectation or having an expectation from that networking. People are busy, right? Everyone has a business, they're entrepreneurs themselves, or they're working, they have families and things like that. But once I was able to focus on just creating the relationship without any expectations, it changed everything. And not everyone responded to the things that I was asking, right? And that's okay too, but you learn from that. So to your point.
My mom used to always say, Rosemary, not everyone's going to love you.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
And that's
I feel like my mom says that just to me. Okay. Okay. All right. Let's move on. So Lorenzo, where do entrepreneurs find resources?
Well, I think when we look at what all of us do, I think we've done a very good job at letting people in our communities know what resources are available, how can we support them, helping them with their business plans, helping them understand their systems, and also understand the opportunities that exist in our communities. However, I think that depending on where we are, we probably, especially for us, we come to realize that we will need to depend on other communities to help us support our entrepreneurs. We have centers in Farmington. I'm from Farmington. That provide us information, assistance. We do marketing. We send flyers. We have host forums, focus groups, many events to promote the opportunities that exist in our community for entrepreneurs and for the opportunities that may exist in the communities in the future. However, for us right now, we're really in a very difficult time where a sense of urgency really is being instilled in everyone in our community. First of all, because of after COVID, we saw many businesses, especially minority-owned businesses, close because they couldn't sustain the economic challenges. We also have a power plant that is closing. We have some major layoffs that are occurring as we speak. And so there's a different sense of urgency in how do we best support those aspiring entrepreneurs and how do we provide an ecosystem to help those that are already we already have established their business. How do we help them evolve and how do we help them now scale up some of their operations? And to me, this is where I think, we also have to realize that we need to better understand what all of us do collectively in the state to support our small businesses so that if there's some things that I cannot provide, then who do I call? Who do I connect my customers with so that they can provide those services? We're finding ourselves that it's no longer just helping somebody, letting them know about how to develop a business plan, find out, how to go through the permitting process, who to talk to at City Hall, who to go to so they can get the proper approvals on different the fire departments, things like that. It's more than that, because we found, especially during COVID, that there were some questions and some assistance that we could not provide. For example, assistance related to HR, to IT. We thought that everything that we needed to do was just marketing and help them, understand. And in fact, we had to get some people to learn immediately how to do some sales online because we didn't have that infrastructure. And the more we go into this, we find that there's more resources that are needed that we cannot provide as a college. We cannot provide because that's one of the challenges in some of our communities, especially at the colleges and the universities. The universities are very good at helping and contributing to the economic development and vitality of the communities, but keep in mind, they're taking resources for institutional funds to support us. Because if we look at the model, in my model, and I come from business background, if I was running that business, I would have closed that business a long time ago because it's not sustainable. We're not bringing revenue to run the operations. I will have to depend on somebody else, grants, and Dana they're great at helping us with grants, and we co-write some grants and apply for grants. But that's how we sustain our system. But more resources are needed, and not just financial resources, also the resources that exist in the different networks and the different communities. We're all here for the same purpose. Let's help other people succeed. How do we collectively work and provide resources and assistance? But here's the caveat. It needs to be with a sense of urgency, because we have people whose life and future depends on the things that we do for them and for our communities. So.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll just add this. There is a bridge to gap, for sure. I mean, there is a gap to bridge. And in my efforts with Right to Start and serving as an advocate and speaking to entrepreneurs, new or established already, the resources are there. I can tell you for myself, they are there. But the gap that we need to bridge is how to access those resources. And that, I think, is a community effort, right? So we are starting to do that with Right to Start. And that's an effort that maybe for a lot of folks have been underserved. And so, and I love that. I love, because you start to realize we have a lot of folks that can get their foot through the first barrier, and then they stop. And they're not stopping because they no longer want to pursue their efforts, whether it's a restaurant or food or anything else. They're stopping because they don't know how to get there. And so with the community effort, we can actually help them do that. Right. Thank you. Okay, Marie, how do incubators and entrepreneurial growth support our entrepreneurial ecosystem?
Thank you. I think when we were talking about this in the planning stage, we were talking about business incubators and other programs like business accelerators, business plan competitions, those kind of things. And they're often confused a little bit. And it's sometimes confusing that people think it's one or the other that entrepreneurs need. Entrepreneurs need, at different times of their business growth and at different times of their business development, pretty much a little bit of everything. And so being in a business incubator doesn't mean that an entrepreneur won't also want to go into an accelerator program, and vice versa. So I definitely wanted to address that these programs create sort of a whole 360 support wrap of things that companies and entrepreneurs need at different times, but they're not exclusive. You don't just sort of go down and go, I'll pick this one and that will get my business going. You need to, and I would encourage, we always encourage our entrepreneurs to know about all the different resources. Our startup program I mentioned earlier, we require the people in the program to go to the small business development centers and to the SCORE and to West and to the colleges and to other programs and check them all out and find out what they are, because all through their business life, they're going to need different things. Even well-developed businesses will find there are times they need input and they need new suggestions or networks or referrals. And so these programs don't just help at the beginning, they help throughout the lifetime of our companies. I think that's important to know. And when I talk about business incubation and how it supports the ecosystem, it's the same as for any entrepreneurial development. If we're developing our entrepreneurs and startups and helping them, there's going to be a big effect on our ecosystem and on our communities. And those will be things like retention. When companies start locally, they develop roots and they're more likely to stay local. Yes, some companies will leave and go to the coast or go to a big city or like, Boston or Denver because of their particular business, but more and more will stay once if they start and grow roots at a local level. And the longer you have them here, the longer and the stronger they are. The job growth, the career paths that are developed for our communities. When they attract capital from outside of a community or outside of the state and bring in revenue, that's money that circulates in our communities and in our ecosystem of building companies. They purchase locally. They increased our tax base. They developed a C-suite. We talked a lot over the last years about how we didn't have that many large businesses in New Mexico. So there wasn't a huge pool of people at the level of leadership to draw from in the workforce. But the more of these companies we're growing, the more we're growing all of those assets. They're diversifying our economy. So giving us new industry sectors to find jobs in and to grow in. And they're scaling up the professional support system. When I started doing this 20 plus years ago, people were like, there's not a lot of specialty law firms and accounting firms and patent lawyers who can help these companies. Guess what? Needed more companies, got more support. Need more support, got more companies. And we're rising that boat, and we're that ladder, we're getting higher and higher up that ladder so that those support entities are here. And those programs bring attention to entrepreneurship. They bring attention to startups. And so every community can't have a big 30,000 square foot business incubator, because you have to have a pipeline of companies. We've had a pipeline of companies coming through there, 200 or 300 companies over 20 plus years. Not every community has that, but every community can help their startups. Every community can look at programs like community accelerators, where a cohort of people go through a training over weeks or months to learn how to present their business or attract capital for their business. Communities can have things like the Hive. They can have drop-in centers. They can have business plan competitions. They can support their entrepreneurs and small businesses by celebrating them and putting a focus and a spotlight on them. And all of these things say to the public at every scale, small businesses are important. They're important to our communities. They're important to our job creation and our young people. And we celebrate them, and we realize how important they are. So I just want to give a shout out to the other business incubators and at San Juan College in Farmington, at South Valley, in Albuquerque, Arrowhead Center, Navajo Tech, in Taos. So we have programs like this throughout the state, and we're, by the grace of the pandemic and this wonderful technology, we're able to help people outside of our immediate area now, which is just wonderful. So thank you.
Thank you. I think it's also worth noting that, we have natural incubators in farmers markets. Every commercial kitchen serves as an incubator too. There's a lot of growth going on there, and ecosystems too, right? Farmers markets, its own ecosystem as well. So thank you very much. Okay, Dana, what are the things that fit our culture in New Mexico and leverage our strengths?
Sure. So I'm gonna go a little off script from what we had talked about, because you all covered my portion very well. What I'd like to address though is the why we all provide support in some capacity to entrepreneurs, to startups. And for context, I am not a native New Mexican. I come from the Pacific Northwest. My husband and I came here for grad school, loved it so much we never left. And there's a lot of reasons for that, other than we, got good jobs, but we really enjoyed the culture. There's something really unique about our ecosystem here and how we work together. And it becomes really, really obvious. And like Dr. Reyes says, we work on a lot of proposals together, and it's pretty easy. I feel like collaborating is not super hard to do in the state. And we, through a lot of our technical programs, have extended our reach through Arrowhead nationally. And so we work with states all across the country deploying SBIR and STTR programming. And they're always so baffled when we come in and we say, well, why don't you go talk to the other university or to the SBDC or to, and they're like, well, do you do that? We're like, yeah, and we do it really well. And even with like the state, it's we work very well with our state economic development department. They're wonderful. And so I think, again, as an outsider, I've been here for 12-ish years now. We have a very unique state. We have very unique resources and assets. We have a lot of human capital. from the national labs, our research institutions, and things like that. And so I would encourage any entrepreneurs or startups, it's our job to secure the funding to provide support to all of you. And for us, we're able to do that for free. Dr. Reyes, again, you made my heart kind of pound because our model is not very sustainable when you look at it from universities. We rely so heavily on soft funding. It can be scary at times if you don't know if that next grant's going to come in to support programming. But I think a lot of people, especially nationally, are starting to recognize that New Mexico is a player on the national scene. People are starting to come here. So through our clean energy cluster, we're already bringing in startups who have relocated to New Mexico so that they could take advantage of the resources we have, not just through Arrowhead, but through the labs, through other programs, universities, things like that. So I'll keep it short so Drew, you have time to talk, but I just wanted to address the why we do it.
Great. Thank you. Okay, Drew, what is something people in the room can do?
Yeah. So when we were planning on this session, we wanted to make sure we were engaging you and also to bring it down from the theory down to practice, right? So a couple things. One is all these folks are available and we'll, I think, leave some time so that they can shout out their email. I'll get mine out of the way. It's Drew, D-R-E-W, at nmangels.com. The website's nmangels.com. You can find our events coming up, and we invite you to be a part of the community and be active because I think that's the easiest thing to do is to show up. And with COVID and with hosts like Rainforest, we're now able to do that. So that's an important thing, show up. Second of all, speaking of showing up, CNM, Jeff, you wanna wave? He's got a fiesta to tell you about November 10th. Chris, you're over there in the corner. He can tell you about his fiesta too. We should have had you guys bring hats. And then Paula Getz, award winner right here. Ask her about the award she won and about what she's doing for seniors. So a lot of us have the solution, and what you're talking about is the silos, right? Or the crab pot syndrome, right? And then I think if each of us take the time to take the information that came to us and pass it on to one other person, right? Most of us need another email like a hole in the head, but maybe taking one of the invitations you got and making sure someone who didn't know about it knew about it, or maybe joined you. Maybe they're your plus one. And I don't think that price of entry for any of our events should ever be a problem. Most of us, I think, if came to us, we'd gladly waive any sort of fees or sought to help somebody who was either rural or usually didn't get a part of these events or could really benefit from it. So I think that's Stacy Sacco right there. Give you a wave. You're deserving. He's an excellent person at doing that. He finds students. He gets them involved in the community in real ways. And so it's just these one things. If each of us did one thing, when I was working in microfinance, the data that came out was if every family-owned business hired 0.5 FTE, so made a half-time hire, we would have perfect employment and all of our economy and income problems solved, right? Because that's the power of our small business. A lot of time, the larger businesses, New Mexico Partnership does a great job trying to recruit folks. Our film industry is very important in being a cash injection, but it's our locally organic, homegrown businesses that are doing things to make a difference. And so I think for all of us, don't forget that. What are you doing? What can you do this week? What can you do just in this conversation this afternoon? And I think that fits in what we heard today at lunch, right? So a couple of pieces of data. Something you said about kind of where we are and helping other, where we are in the state. Tramway Ventures, which is another board member of ours, Juanita Tuttle, they have a really great infographic at Tramway Ventures, and it shows that the state is actually 16th. We're not at the bottom in something, and that's 16th in dollars per capita leveraged from private to public funds. So there is capital, this idea that there is no money. It's just where the money is. Sometimes it has strings attached. Sometimes it has to have work. Or like Rose said, we have to get people having an ongoing relationship in order to get that. But there are solutions available in front of us. And so how can each of us create that web of strength to grow things? So New Mexico Angels, we've been able to support 16 companies this year. Last year, we supported 11 companies. The year before that, with COVID, we only helped 4. And we were able to get direct capital from members of our organization, right? These are angel members who are writing collective checks to help these startups and these high growth businesses to really start and really grow. And then we're able to leverage. So with our equity injection, it's not always equity, but with a base level of capital, of risk capital, they then can go to other institutions. NMEDD's CAP program, which connects them to a bank, or an MFA, who I mentioned before, for a loan. And if lending is not appropriate because it's a startup, we have our SBIR sources and some of our government money, which is risk capital, and it's appropriate to take our tax dollars. So those of us who have learned or batted our heads against the wall and learned some of these things, let's take the opportunities we do have. Let's be like water in the desert. Again, mixing bad metaphors. And let's try to flow and see where we can start connecting these dots and hope that we can start putting a couple steps together. So that's my hope. And I think all of these folks here on this stage are committed to that, and I've seen them do excellent work, and I know many of you in the audience do. So I think it's the question of what can we just do that one step of the journey of 1,000 miles? And I think I'll stop there and turn it back to our salsa man.
That's great. That's fantastic. So I will say that I don't have experience or background in any other city or community as an entrepreneur, but this hands down is probably the most welcoming community that I've experienced in any capacity. And it's fantastic. So, and in my efforts as a Right to Start advocate and speaking with entrepreneurs, whether they're established or new, is almost a surprise that the resources, not only that the resources exist, but there's people in the community that are willing to help, right? And whether you're selling the same product to someone else, it's there. And so, and I think what this community really responds to, not only the business one, but the local one, is some type of preservation of its culture, right? So everyone, a lot of people are transplants. I'm a transplant. I've been here for 23 years, but I can appreciate what New Mexico and Albuquerque and Santa Fe has to offer. And I think if we put forth an effort to preserve some of that, the reaction that you're going to have from entrepreneurs and in this business community, we'll be better, we'll be stronger. And I think that's really important. So thank you guys so much. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask. There is a microphone up here.
And so many great remarks. So everything we have in the state tells me we have everything. So one might even think we had what it takes to drive a regional innovation engine. What's missing? What are we asking for? There's probably 10 proposals going on right now for regional innovation engines. $160 million program from the National Science Foundation. Universities are the eligible bidders. What's missing? What are we going to ask them for? What do you guys think?
Well, my snide quick remark would be go find out who's on the decision-making committee and making sure you've already talked to them. Because the best way I've seen for foundations and government is when they trust you and know you. And sometimes New Mexico has lost out to Colorado or other states because we haven't had that strength of relationship. So I know you're going to put together a great proposal, and I'm not worried about that. I'm wondering about how well you know the people who are going to be making the decisions around this money.
Well, I think for us, from a perspective, and we're very involved with the NMSG on the proposal and development of the proposal, as always. You know, I'm an Aggie, so I have to. Just so you'll know, I'm biased. I think that any event, and I think this is something that I hope that at least the next panel addresses, as how do we, we learn a lot today, but how do we move forward as a state? How do we collectively agree at least on 2 or 3 things that we can accomplish over the next year? So that next year, when we have this conference, things change and we're better off than we were today. So to me, when I look at the proposals and the opportunities that exist, not only on the one that you mentioned, but the infrastructure bill, the Inflation Reduction Act, all this funding that is available, what is lacking is a unified vision to move us forward. And not only a unified vision, but a clear strategic plan where all of us understand what is our role and how do we support each other. That's what is lacking. I mean, I can tell you because I come from a community where sometimes, we have difficult conversations and we go in a different direction, but we are learning that if we are not able to sit at the same table and have these difficult conversations, we're not going to move forward as a community. And it's been an eye-opener for a lot of groups because, you know what? We may not be successful on one proposal, but we learn from each other what is important for each other and as a community, and then make us grow as individuals and as professionals.
Thank you, everyone, for having us and for being here, panel members. Marie, thank you for jumping on. Appreciate it.